Now, I am in no way guaranteeing that once we do this, the world will start listening. In fact, I don't expect that at all. To shoot straight with you, I think we're way past the tipping point now. Now, that's not to say that we won't win a few battles here and there, but we must remember that we're fighting battles in an empire that will inevitably crumble. Our government is doing everything within its power to make sure that its cosmic image is the image that is worshipped, by restoring infant extermination laws and by making sure that the Nephilim can share the restroom with your daughters. But when the empire finally crumbles, as it will, we will be here to rebuild in the ruins. Our work should be to build small pockets of resistance and in states that are friendly to allowing us to do so. We must do this by turning our homes and neighborhoods into miniature shires where we live in community with like-minded neighbors, and by turning our churches into miniature Rivendales where people can come and rest and recover the lost lore of an old world by participating in our liturgies, catechesis, and Christian schools. We should band together with like-minded churches that share our cosmic imagery and create strong networks to support one another. As Western culture eats itself, we will be here with a counterculture and counter spells, ready to re-enchant the world.
Welcome to the Narnian. I'm your host, Josh Robinson. And on this episode of the Narnian, I'm going to be reading an essay from my Substack called Speaking a New World into Existence, Re-enchanting the World with Language. Make sure to like and subscribe and to rate wherever you're listening to your podcasts. And with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and dive right in. Beginning at the beginning. Last week, I wrote an essay called The Dark Enchantment of Modernity that focused on the importance of language in the mind of C.S. Lewis. I was pleasantly surprised to find that there were lots of folks who read and enjoyed that essay, much more than I was expecting, in fact, which I'm really happy about. Joe Holland, who is a friend of mine, who serves as the academic dean at Grimke Seminary, suggested writing more on the use of language as a way to combat evil. I thought this was a good idea and that it would make for a nice follow-up to my original essay and would give me an opportunity to speak on enchantment from an angle that I've never explored before. But before we get going, let's start back at the beginning. Before we can understand how language can be used to combat evil, we must first understand language, how it comes about, and how it derives its meaning. Then, after that, we'll also be able to understand how language has been co-opted by the powers of darkness. In last week's essay, I explained it this way. Languages and ethics are born from a culture's cosmic imagery or world picture. To use an analogy to give some earthiness to Jason Baxter's point, you ought to think about the relationship between these things in this way. These things, which is language and cosmic imagery, these things share a sort of womb and child relationship. In the same way that a mother's womb gives nourishment, life, and body to its child, cosmic imagery does the same thing with languages and ethics. Language takes meaning from cosmic imagery, and it gives body to it like a local habitation. A culture's cosmic imagery is embodied within its language. And then these languages are then used to enact ethics within the world. This is how language works, regardless of what culture you look at, be it ancient or modern. For example, when you look at many ancient languages like Hebrew or Latin, you will never see gender-neutral language like birthing persons or pregnant people. This is because their language was guided by a particular cosmic imagery where the divine had created only one gender to give birth. That's woman. The reason why modern language now has gender-neutral language like this is because the culture in which it finds its embodiment now has a different cosmic imagery. Words have power. Words can speak worlds into existence and set worlds on fire. James 3:6. And this is why there is a war for words. This should be no surprise to us as Christians, for it has been this way since the first age. Remember, God spoke words to Adam and Eve that were meant to structure their world and to guide their ethics. The enemy, from the beginning, sought to twist those words into a dark spell that would curse humanity. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3:1-15. The war of our age is the original war, playing out again and again on the fractal canvas of time. As the wheel of time turns, more icons of God are born into the old war for the cosmos, just like their kin before them. There's nothing new under the sun. Men may subcreate and arrange their world differently than those who came before them, but it's the same old forms and matter. At the end of the day, the battle of each age is decided upon how they will answer this question. Will we fall under the enchantment of the dark magic and bend creation to our will? Or will we yield to the true magic of the one who created us and live in harmony with his creation? Re-enchanting our vocabulary. For faithful Christians united to the second Adam, the choice is simple. No amount of word games will persuade us to take the fruit and eat. No matter what the Gospel Coalition and Christianity Today writers tell us, we know that what hides behind the veil is nothing more than the enemy of old. He may be dressed in drag now instead of having the appearance of the garden serpent, but make no mistake, it's still him. So for those of us who have chosen to not become our own gods and to drink the Kool-Aid from the forbidden tree, where do we begin? We must begin with re-enchanting our vocabulary, which starts with remembering the old world and its cosmic imagery. Remember, language is born from cosmic imagery, so we must start there. This is why I said in the last essay that we must take up and read. We must immerse ourselves in the great tradition. We must let Plato's Republic inform us, and then we must read St. Augustine's City of God next to it. We must read Aristotle and let him inform us on the distinction between form and matter, and then we must immerse ourselves in St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae. We must read Virgil's Aeneid and Dionysius the Areopagites on the celestial hierarchy, and then we have to see how Dante brings it all together in a beautiful symphony in Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. Then, when you're done, come back to C.S. Lewis's The Discarded Image and Michael Ward's Planet Narnia. By doing this, we will immerse ourselves in the cosmic imagery of the old world. But here's what I didn't say the last time that I'll say now. After you take up and read, take up and take off. Go and live. Go sit on a mountain and contemplate the seven heavens and write about how they reflect the celestial hierarchy. Go stand by the vastness of the sea and be reminded of the infinity of God and memorialize it with paint on a canvas. Call boys and girls, boys and girls. Go and teach your children to do the same in hopeful expectation that they'll go and teach their children. It's only after we spend time living in a re-enchanted world picture that we can begin to craft what Doug Wilson in Angels in the Architecture calls the poetic imagination. And then, and only then, can we begin casting our own counterspells against modernity's dark enchantment. Baxter points this out in his Medieval Mind of C.S. Lewis. He says, Dante could teach modern writers how to cast those spells used for breaking enchantments, as he put it in his Weight of Glory sermon. Dante taught him how an artist could cast a counterspell in which the good feels weighty and attractive, a spell to overcome the evil enchantment cast by modernity. By cultivating a poetic imagination, we can lift up our vocabulary and re-enchant it. We can learn to use our words to make the good, the true, and the beautiful weighty, attractive, and sacral. Now, this may seem a little bit abstract at first, but it shouldn't. We do this all the time with common things to sacralize them. It's actually ingrained into human nature. So, for example, Christians have traditionally done this with funerals. The beasts of the field don't bury their dead, but we lift up the life of the dead and ritualize it by lighting candles, putting pictures up to be viewed, saying a requiem, or eulogizing and processing the body of the deceased through our towns. This sets apart the dead's life as sacred. It communicates to the world that this person was created in the image of God and that they made our lives better in various ways. It makes living this kind of life weighty and attractive. We even do the same thing with sex. The thing that sets human sex apart from the sex of the beasts of the field is that we don't do it in the streets for the world to see. At least most of us don't. Rather, what we do is we ritualize it and we lift it up. We light candles, we put on music, we have a designated place where this union of flesh occurs in private. This sets it apart as sacred and gives weightiness and beauty to the experience. And this is what we should do with our language and our ethics. We should lift them up so that they're made beautiful and weighty, acting as counterspells to the ugliness and the rootlessness of modernity. There is no such thing as a high English, but that's what we should strive for. A high language that embodies a high cosmic imagery that is clothed in the poetic imagination. Now, this may seem pedantic, but I promise you that it is much more enduring and beautiful to describe your wife's beauty like this. Her beauty is like that of the heavenly host, enduring and unfathomable in worth, like a burning star in the darkness of the sky outermost, than it is to just say, "Damn, boo, you're hot as hell." Was it not Adam who first uttered poetry over his woman in the garden? This is what human language was created for, to be lifted up into the heavens. There's a reason why America has been dumbed down. We have been dumbed down so that we would no longer look up. Contrast beauty like the heavenly host and being hot as hell. Conclusion. Now, I am in no way guaranteeing that once we start doing this, the world will start listening. In fact, I don't expect that at all. To shoot straight with you, I think we're way past the tipping point now. Now, that's not to say that we won't win a few battles here and there. I am a post-millennialist. But we must remember that we're fighting battles in an empire that will inevitably crumble. Our government is doing everything within its power to make sure that its cosmic image is the image that is being worshipped by restoring infant extermination laws and by making sure that the Nephilim can share the restroom with your daughters. But when the empire finally crumbles, as it will, we will be here to rebuild in the ruins. Our work should be to build small pockets of resistance and in states that are friendly to allowing us to do so. We do this by turning our homes and our neighborhoods into miniature shires where we live in community with like-minded neighbors, and by turning our churches into miniature Rivendelles where people can come to rest and recover the lost lore of an old world by participating in our liturgies, catechesis, and Christian schools. We should be banding together with like-minded churches that share our cosmic imagery and create small networks to support one another. As Western culture eats itself, we will be here with a counterculture and counter spells ready to re-enchant the world.